Hello class, my name is Lucy Wawero. Today we are looking at curriculum and instruction, unit called BNE4201. Welcome. Our topic today is practice teaching. Introduction. Practice teaching is an integral component of teaching training. All teachers training. It grants students, teachers experience in the actual teaching practice and in a learning environment. It is the teaching by a student under supervision of an experienced teacher, meaning that the student who is learning to be a teacher gets into a practical environment under supervision of an experienced one. In this session, we will look at the session overview and session objectives. Overview. The session will cover definition and preparation of scheme of work and lesson plan. Scheme of work is a summary of the entire coursework as provided in the syllabus. For example, a semester's work for a unit. Lesson plan is the plan of a specific topic to be taught in a specific lesson. For example, 3-hour lesson. Both scheme of work and lesson plan should relate, meaning that whatever is in the scheme of work is the thing that you plan for in a lesson. They are both presented in diagrammatic form. Let's look at the session objective. By the end of this session or section, learners will be able to describe practice teaching, plan the subject matter of teaching, make a scheme of work, and make a lesson plan. Definitions of terms. We will look at definitions of terms in our lesson. And our objectives as follows. By the end of the lesson, you'll be able to define practice teaching, explain scheme of work, and define lesson plan. Definition of practice teaching. Practice teaching is the practical preparation that one undertakes in order to become a professional teacher. Professional teaching is characterized by the acceptance of responsibility for facilitating other people's learning. This involves process of preparing teaching material and practical teaching. Scheme of work, or the plan of the subject matter. A scheme of work is a plan for something. A teacher's scheme of work is therefore his or her plan of action, and this action helps him or her to organize teaching activities ahead of time. That is why it is a plan. It is summarized. It is a summarized forecast of work This is what the teacher considers adequate and appropriate for the class to cover within a given period. It is normally from course already set in the syllabus of that unit. It is a well-prepared scheme of work which should, among other things, include the following. One should prepare a scheme of work that gives an overview of the total course content, provide for a sequential listing of learning tasks by the students, show a relationship between content and support materials, and provide a basis for long-range planning, training, and evaluation of the course. For example, when cuts, it should be showing when the cuts and the exams will be done. Prerequisites for planning the subject matter or the scheme of work. It should have a thorough understanding of the subject matter to be taught. It should also select the most important aspects of the topics to be taught. And also, there should be identification of key concepts in the topic using literature and your own knowledge and experience of the topic. One should use the objectives of the session to assist you in selecting the content, but keep it interesting. In the prerequisites also, we avoid giving too much or too little information to the point of either overwhelming or boring the students or learners. The teacher should not try to cover all aspects of the topic in details to allow the students' curiosity and visit the library. One should keep all references and further reading lists or provide, and we should also choose the appropriate teaching strategies and plan explanations for everything. A scheme of work can be made to cover 1 week, 1 month, or 1 term, or even 1 year, depending on the duration of a given program. For example, in our education program, each year is divided into 3 trimesters, with each term lasting 4 months or 16 weeks. That will be our scheme of work. In such a case, the scheme of work should be made for each semester. Ideally, the scheme of work should be prepared before classes begin. Let's look at lesson plan. A lesson plan, by definition, is a detailed step-by-step guide for the teacher. It outlines the teacher's objectives for what the students will accomplish during the course of the lesson and how they will learn it. It should have a flow, and the flow should be from introduction, then in the instruction part, and then finally summarize. Components of a lesson plan. We have the title, objectives, the time the lesson will take, teaching activities, and learning activities. So teaching activities is the activities the teacher will do, and then the learning activities is what the students or the learners will do. So these components, let's look at the title. The title of the lesson, for example, class. Which class are you teaching? And where would the venue be, and the date? Then we have time. It is the time required for the lesson to be complete. And then number 3 is the list of required materials. The required material could have, are you using digital? Are you using projection? Do you want to use the whiteboard? And maybe teaching aids. What will you use to accomplish your lesson? List of objectives are very important. Learners should know what the lesson is about and what they are required to cover. And the instruction part, the instructional component, all the content that the teacher's instruction or the input activity. Then we have the teacher's activity. We have said this, what the teacher will do to help the learners learn. Learner's activity, and it is the guide or the dependent. What will the learners be doing? They could be guided or they could be doing it independently. For example, if your lesson is one that they have to do a discussion, depending on what material or what you want the learners to do, to learn. And eventually we do evaluation after the lesson. We want to know how much your learners have understood. The flow of a lesson. Flow of a lesson. We said we have the introduction, and in the introduction it focuses on students. It focuses the students on the lesson, all the skills that are to be learned, the concept of the lesson, and which include maybe showing pictures or model, or asking leading questions, or even reviewing previous lessons. Then the instructional component. This describes the sequence of events that make up the lesson, including the teacher's instructional input and the guide that the teacher will do to the students to show them how the skill that is required to be learned. The summary part or consolidation is a repeat of the key points of concepts that were learned in the lesson. Then finally we do evaluation. This is recapitulation, or asking questions in assessment, assessing whether your objectives were met. If you had said that the students will be able to define, are they able to define in their own words, or did they understand? We have a sample of a scheme of work, which I will send you in your emails because it may not be clear on the screen. And then we have a sample of a lesson plan. Again, I'll send it to your email or notes. And then finally, we'll do the summary. And we have looked at practice teaching, which can also called teaching practice, meaning practical preparation by the teacher. And this teacher is a student teacher. Then the scheme of work. It is a plan of action that's done ahead of the program before the program starts. We organize it. You see the activities that shall be done and plan for it. And then the lesson plan. Lesson plan is a detailed step-by-step that the teacher will prepare on how the lesson will go, having the objectives for what the students or the learners will accomplish. And finally, we need to do the references or the references for further reading for this lesson, and even we also give our students references. And even now that you are a student, I'm giving you references which are already in your course outline. You can read further, and we can interact in the e-learning platform. I want you to read about Herbartian principle of sequencing the content and basic principles of preparing a lesson for further understanding. The end. And thank you, and stay safe.
Okay, welcome back, class. Remember, we have done all our family planning methods, and now we are going to do a summary on how we are able to classify our family planning methods. So when you approach, or maybe when you have somebody ask you a question, or you are to describe a certain family planning method, remember what I have been telling you, that we have a format where you should be able to talk about that family planning method from the word go to the last. Therefore, today we are going to look at general approach to family planning methods. And as usual, I'm your presenter. We have been meeting. The first thing is classification. When a method, you are to describe a certain method, the first thing is which class is this method of family planning? One, the family planning methods are classified either as natural family planning, artificial family planning, hormonal contraceptive, non-hormonal contraceptive, barrier method, and surgical method, modern method, or traditional method. So that is your first classification. So for example, you are given like a condom. The first thing you should say classification is a barrier method. So this is something that you have to understand for you to classify to talk about certain family planning. The other thing is you have to know how to use. And this, if you are able to understand how a method is used, it is there for your role to explain to the client how that method is used. So the healthcare worker should clearly counsel the client on how to use the method for it to be effective. And the clear guidance to the client ensure proper use of the method, and therefore this one will lead to high effectiveness. So it is very important for us to understand how the method is used, and you explain properly for this client how this method will be used for it to achieve the contraceptive effect. For example, again, if it is something like pills, explain to them how they should be taking the pills. If you miss a pill, how should you, what next step should you take for you to ensure that you do not get pregnancy, and the pregnant and the method becomes effective. Mode of action. This is how a family planning method acts on the client's body for it to be effective. Some of them, they act directly, they are barriers. Others, they have to be ingested or injected or implanted to the client, and then they interfere with the hormones, and then interference with the hormones will bring about the changes. So the family planning methods work differently depending on the type of method opted. For example, barrier methods. And barrier methods, examples of barrier methods are male and female condoms. We have cervical caps. Their main aim or way of preventing the fertilization is through preventing of the egg and the sperm to meet, hence no fertilization will occur. For example, hormonal methods, they weaken the cervical mucus, hence the movement of sperm cell is affected. They also cause an ovulation, hence no ova is reached for fertilization, and they also interfere with the endometrial preparation, hence the embryo, even if fertilization occurs, it cannot embed because there is no preparation of the endometrium. So it is good for us to understand the mode of action so that as we explain to these clients, they will also understand the method they opt to use, how it works. The other thing is advantages. You have to explain to the client what are the advantages, both contraceptive and non-contraceptive. And contraceptive advantage are what is the level of effectiveness of the method if consistently used. But remember, no method is 100% effective, but effectiveness is increased with proper use and also if a backup method is used. So this is very important when you are talking to the, or when you are giving the client the information, that no method is 100%. So a client can get pregnant even if he or she, even if she is taking, she's using any family planning method. So it is good for them to understand that the effectiveness may only be increased if, one, there is consistent use of the method, and number two, there is a backup. The other one is non-contraceptive advantage. Apart from preventing or protecting pregnancy, preventing pregnancy, what else can this family planning method do? For example, does it protect against HIV/AIDS and STIs? And the only effective method we know that prevents that is use of both male and female condoms. All other methods basically do not protect one from HIV and AIDS. The other one is how easy is it to use the method? Does the method require a healthcare worker to help you use that method? Some methods are very easy to use. Female condoms are very easy to use. Male condoms are very easy to use. Pills, the initial information, you are told to take how many pills, but after that, if you understand how to use it, you can use. But there are methods like intrauterine devices that can be only inserted by a healthcare worker, or issues to do with the implants, and surgical methods like bilateral tubal ligation or vasectomy. So it is very important to know the advantages. So some methods that are offered that are easy to use, easily accessible, those are what we call the non-contraceptive advantages, that a client can use the method by himself or herself without intervention of a healthcare worker. Limitations of family planning. Some family planning methods may have minor and major unwanted effects. It is the role of the reproductive health worker to explain to the client possible unwanted effects and where and when to seek health care if a major unwanted effect occur. So all the methods have limitations, but some of them are minor. It is also very important to know about what we call drug interaction, like combined oral contraceptives. They interact with antiretrovirals, most of the antiretrovirals, the other anti-TB and antifungals. So it is very important for you as a healthcare provider to explain to this client about the limitation, so that at least when they use the drugs or when they are using the method, they understand other effects that can occur, the other unwanted effects that can occur. Who can use and who cannot use the method? Remember, a client may come to you with one option that I want to use this method, but you as a healthcare worker, you have to use what we call the client assessment, so that when after you do the client assessment, you will be certain whether this client is eligible for that method. And therefore, it is important for you to clearly understand the WHO eligibility criteria and categorize the method opted as per the eligibility criteria. For example, level 1, where the clients, and remember the WHO eligibility criteria looks at the medical or other comorbidities that this client may be having. So, for example, a client who comes to you wants to use combined oral contraceptives and has a certain cardiovascular disease. Then, even if that client wants to use that method, you as a healthcare provider, you are not supposed to give, because that patient is not eligible for that family planning method. So you categorize level 1, where we say generally use the method. Level 2, use the method. Level 3, do not use the method. And if you have to use the method, you can use the method if no alternative, but close follow-up of that client is necessary. And then level 4, do not use the method at all. So at least from level 1 and 2, use the method. Level 3 is relative. You can use the method, but level 4, never use that method. So it is you as a healthcare provider to know whether this client is eligible for that method. And that's where, during the counseling, you can tell the client, I've refused to give you this method depending on your medical state, and if I give you this method, it will do this, and this will interfere with your health. So it is very important to know the WHO eligibility criteria, so that we also guide our clients when they are seeking for health services. Who can provide the method? Remember, not all methods that can be offered by any healthcare workers, depending on the proficiency of that client, of that healthcare worker. And as you know, Kenya is divided as the Kenya Health Program. The Kenya Health Ministry of Health has divided our levels into level 1 up to level 6, or tier 1 up to tier 6. It is good to know, are you proficient enough to offer this service? And therefore, some of the facilities, some of the health of the family planning can be offered at level 1, community health level. This is where you have the community health workers, the community health volunteers. They can supply condoms and pills. Level 2, dispensaries, where you have the nurses and some clinical officers. You can offer condoms, pills, injectables, implants, and intrauterine devices. Level 3, health centers. We can offer all those offered in tier 2. And if you have a theater and maybe proficient staff, we can also do surgical procedures. Level 4, sub-county hospitals, all those offered in tier 3, including surgical contraceptives, and also tier 5. Tier 5 and 6, this can offer all age, the whole age of family planning methods. So it is also very important to know who can provide this method, so that if a client comes to you and you are in a dispensary and wants to do bilateral tube irrigation, you should know where to refer them. So it is not good to try to convince. It is good to convince the client where they can get these services and refer them accordingly. Advice on method specific. It is the role of the healthcare provider to explain the client on one specific mode of action of that method. How does this method work? Number two, how to use the method. Explain properly the steps the client should use for him or her to use the method. Number three, possible unwanted effects of a method. Remember, you've said that all methods have some unwanted effect. The other one, advantages of the method, both contraceptive and non-contraceptive. And the last one we have, when to come again for review, all for replenishing of the stock. So it is very important to give a TCA to come again, and you give specific date, come on this day at this time, and the clinic for either review or for either a replenishing of the stock. So it is very good, very important for us to advise the client, and this advice on the method specific will also help in what we call adherence to the family planning method and proper or high effectiveness. So these are the references, and we have the WHO 2018. This is the most current, so I'll advise you to go and look at this, the global handbook for the providers. They are available in most of our health facilities. It is also good to go and get them. And basically, today's lessons, as I've told you, was a summary of all family planning methods, what you have been doing the entire semester. Remember, you had already completed, but the summary was on how, if you are given a family planning method, how can you explain about the family planning method? And this is what you have said, that the first thing you have to know to classify the method. The other one, you have to know the mode of action. The other one, you have to say the side effects. The other one is client advice on the method specific. The other one is about limitations. And the other one, you have to tell them on eventually what you've said about the advice on method specific and when to come again for replenishing of the stock. And basically, what is very important you have to explain to the client is that no method is 100% effective unless dual protection, all, that is what we call the backup, all, and what we call the proper use of that method. Some clients take like pills when the husband is around. When the husband is away, they stop. So remember, we need regular use of this family planning method for it to be effective. And with that, I'll stop there. And if you have any other question or clarification, use the online platform for communication, and I'll be able to respond to your queries and to answer your questions. Thank you for listening.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.